most people, I would venture to say, will realize their animal has found them. And
Mm.
it's not always the animal you thought you wanted or thought is the best
Yes.
animal,
Oh my
but it's the
gosh.
right animal.
Hello and welcome to The Wealth Within Us. This is Michelle, and today I have with me Carolyn Osborn, and she is an energy intuitive and Chiron medicine for animals and for people. So, Carolyn, I'm super glad that you took the time out to come and talk with me today. I'm very interested not only on how you got started, but I love that you're communicating with animals and people, kind of like a relationship therapist. So I definitely want to talk about that. But first of all, how did you get into this kind of work?
I got into this work kind of, I guess, through a back door. I never started it this way initially. Um, I have been a violinist, professional violinist, and working
Yeah,
as a
you really came in
violinist.
it from another area.
Yes, yeah. And I've been doing
Okay.
that most of my life. But then at some point, I was like, I need to come up with something else at some point when I retire. And I've always been really interested in holistic health for myself and always involved with animals like horses and dogs and cats and things like that. And so it was actually through my chiropractor who invited me to a 1 day class of this particular modality. And it was all on energy medicine and how to
Okay.
work and how to balance the body, to balance the meridians, to balance the organs, and get all of these things working and communicating, which was
Would it be for you? So it wasn't with the animals at this point. It
this
was
one.
just
This
for
one
you.
was for me, but the key was the guy says you can do this. And like I said, this was just sort of like a self-care class where I can do
Okay.
these things on myself, minimal. But he said, you can do this on your family and you can do this on your animals. And I went,
Hmm.
oh, okay.
Interesting.
So ding, ding, ding.
Come over
And
here.
then
Let me play with you.
yeah, so I thought, wow, this is great. So basically, that sort of opened this doorway and really intrigued me. And I just started taking classes and getting certifications and broadening and expanding and then, connecting more with specific animal people as well as, with the people. So I started sort of working with people with the understanding that I'd be then working with animals. So it all progressed and to where I am now. So I've been doing this now, I guess about 12 years, 13 years now.
Okay.
And been doing it for quite a while and it keeps progressing and evolving as all things
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I'm sure you started out with one way and even as you do the work, I feel like you progress as well, just
Yes.
intuitively. So not by, I mean, yeah, we all take courses and we do all these new things and techniques, but just internally, I think we progress as well.
And the biggest thing is to do this work, you have to work on yourself, like you're saying.
So true.
So working on myself. So I'm getting sessions from other people as well as
Mhm.
me working on them. And the more they work on me, that clears my blocks, clears
Yeah.
my, imbalances. And it's this ever evolving progress.
Cycle that never
Um,
ends.
but that's what then helps me to help other people or animals. The more I'm clear and the more I'm, or dealt with certain things, then that enables me to be a better assistance to my clients in their situations and whatever comes up.
Well, and I think it's interesting because how is it different when you're dealing with a human and an animal can't tell you like, hey, my knee's bothering me, or I've got this thing going on. So how does that look different when you're working with a person versus say a horse or a dog or an animal?
Okay, so with the person, I can ask them, and they say, it's like, okay, tell me what's bothering you, and then it's like, okay, what's really bothering you? Because everybody has
Mm.
their surface stuff, and then it's
Yeah,
like, all right,
it's the top
down.
symptom.
And then it's like you start digging deeper, and it's like, oh, okay, these are the deeper issues, and
Hmm.
then we start clearing off the layers, the levels, the different layers. It's like an onion peels. You keep
Yeah.
clearing one layer and then the next layer. And the beauty of the work that I do energetically is it only addresses what's ready to go at that particular moment. So I'm not going in and pulling things out that are like, no, 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 don't touch me yet.
Yes.
You
The
know,
dark places.
so you have to kind of work around them or get to them and clear out other areas before they feel safe to release. So I'm always working, so that's for the best interest of the client and the person.
Yeah.
So you're not doing something that they can't handle and that's
Yeah.
not in their best interest.
Yeah, it's like anything else. We're not equipped to deal with things that we're not ready for.
Right, exactly. And so it's a progressive process that happens. And I like to say it's great because the work continues. Every session builds on the previous session, and it's over a period of time. I've had some work done on me where it was like 6 months later, where all of a sudden I went, oh, that thing has totally shifted. Like that thing is not there anymore. It's like all of a sudden you notice it like 6 months later or a year later. So it's not always like a right away kind of issue. But if you continue the process, then that allows the body and the energy bodies around it to make those necessary shifts for those big changes to happen. So it's definitely a process.
Well,
and then to answer your
100%.
question about yeah. And then when you working with the animals, it's basically the same process. But what I'm doing is I'm intuitively and energetically connecting with them. So I'm talking with them as an animal communicator. I'm able to connect with them and pick up what they're feeling and have to say. I also do medical intuitive reading, so I'm able to kind of look at their body and look at them energetically again and say, okay, this is kind of where there's an issue. This is what's going on. It's on the physical layer, it's on the emotional layer, whatever, wherever it might be. So that gives me a better way of understanding. Plus, whatever their parent is telling me about what they're feeling or what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Or some recent event, like maybe they just went on a trip somewhere and they were in the back and that freaked them out for a while or something.
Right, exactly. And, animals, of course, have physical issues, and I deal a lot with that. But there's also a lot of emotional issues with them because they are very much in tune with their people and their surroundings. So they tend to take on the emotions of their person or their people. If they're in a family, they could be helping different people, not just one. And so then they can get a little overloaded and process. So that's where helping them process and release what they've been taking on, whether it's physical or emotional or mental, sometimes even spiritual. There are sometimes these karmic connections you have between an animal and a person. I've worked with several animal and people pairs where, they have experienced past lives together. They've been together before. So it's not their first time together. And so it's just a different dynamic, but there's a deep connection that goes through these many lifetimes.
I definitely feel that's true. I feel it with my cat that had passed away a few years ago. And I feel it with the dog I have now. It's like, she's like my little heart spirit dog. Like we've been through this before.
Yeah. But the important thing then to say is, okay, we've been through this, but now we're taking it to a different level. It's a different dynamic. It's a different place.
Or what time around am I here to heal? And I mean, they really are. I think people underestimate and they look at emotional support dogs like it's just a way to get your dog on a plane or wherever in a shopping area or whatever. But I think for a lot of people, it is true whether you're conscious of it or not. And as you just said, if you've got your animals taking on the emotional dynamics of a family, depending on your family, I mean, yes. Wow, that dog or cat can really be taking on a lot.
And one of the important things for people to realize is, especially with emotions, when either a person or an animal is taking on emotions and they're either suppressing or repressing them, whether due to trauma, whether due to overwhelm, whether due to, they're helping other people or they can't speak up or, whatever the situation, if those emotions are stuck for too long of a period within the body, and they go somewhere in the body, usually your kind of weak spot. Sometimes it's the lungs, it could be the digestive system, it could be the nervous system, it could be your hip. It just depends for every person and animal that's different. That then can ultimately start to turn into a physical illness or disease, because it has to go somewhere and has to do something. And if you have that anger or that fear or that sadness or whatever, that worry, excessive worry in your body all the time, and you're not getting it out, it's going to take a toll on your body.
I mean, it's just like anything else. If you leave something untouched, like the leaky faucet, if you leave it leaking, before you know it, maybe now you have water in your basement. So I'm assuming our bodies are kind of the same way. If we ignore all those stuck emotions, which I'm working on, I'm working on it.
Right. And it's hard for people to deal with that. It's very uncomfortable. It's not always pleasant.
No.
But ultimately, if you really want to take care of yourself and your animal, you want to clear as much stuff out as you can to keep it clean and keep your energy field clean, your physical body clean. And then you're able to deal and process things. So the animals are doing this a lot. They are taking on not just their own emotions, but that of their person. And so this is where I have a program that I call my Chiron Mirror Sessions.
Ooh.
A package of 4, or it can be 8, but 4, where I work on the animal and the person.
Okay.
So I might work on the animal first, or I might work on a combination of the animal and then go to the person. Then I work on the person. And, so it just kind of depends on, again, at that moment, which is the best place to start, which is the best, what's ready to be addressed, there to help clear that. And then especially, so animals express this in different ways. Let's go back to that. An animal can be just depressed or hiding, or they may get aggressive. They may start acting out. They might be peeing and pooping in places. They might be digging.
So those would be cues then for the pet owner to look out for.
Exactly. So if there are behaviors that have suddenly come up that are not normal or not the usual way, then it's like, okay, where is this coming from? What is the animal trying to say? They're usually trying to tell us. It's like, all right, there's something going on that we both need to address and deal with here, and we need help. So that's because animals do not go out and do bad things intentionally unless they have a reason. And their reason is they're getting overwhelmed. They're taking on too much. They can't handle it. I was just working with a service dog and its owner who has PTSD, and this dog literally is just like overwhelmed and it's like couldn't take on anymore. It was just like, I need help.
And was it overwhelm from the person? So where was the overwhelm coming from? It was coming from the person. From the person servicing.
Yes, the person that she was servicing. And it's just too much. And if the person can't address it, the animal can take so much. And then the animal started having its own physical issues. But it's just like, I can't do this anymore. It's like the animal's like, I'm just exhausted, and they're exhausted and they're not responding, and they're not able to take it on and let it go as easily as they used to. So this can manifest, like I say, in many different ways and different forms.
Yeah.
So the important thing is the awareness, for us to have awareness about our pets, about what's going on. First, look at, I always say, first check with your vet and see if there's anything physically going on, because there could be a physical issue there. And that's, rule number 1. Then if they come back and they're normal and they're fine, then you start to say, okay, what else is going on? What's changed in their environment? What am I going through? what am I putting on them? What am I not saying or releasing? Or what's going on in my life that could be causing disruption or impacting my pet in a slightly negative way?
Obviously,
So
you don't do this intentionally, but
no, and it's not intentional,
yeah.
but it's becoming aware. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's just the awareness of us saying,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I need to leave those dark emotions outside the door, not bring them in the house.
Mhm.
Leave work at work, or
Yeah,
whatever.
because I mean, if you don't do that, even if it's just you and your pet, if you had a family, that would then transfer over to possibly your spouse or your children or whoever else was in the household with you. So just like it
Exactly.
transfer onto them, it's going to transfer onto your pet as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all interrelated. That's
Yes.
the bottom
Yeah.
line, and they're all different, situations.
And it makes so much
So
sense.
yeah, and so that's what I do with those Chiron mirror sessions, and it does make sense. And when people start to realize it, it's like oh yeah. And I'm not about making people miserable and saying you're the cause of
Yeah.
everything, but a lot of pet owners are more concerned about their pets than they are about themselves.
On which
And
level do you mean?
just anything. I mean, they will do anything for their pet. They'll take care of
Okay.
this, but they don't necessarily want to address themselves.
Their own. Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's a joint effort here to be successful. Now there are always people that aren't.
Yeah.
So do the best I can with the animals and do what I can. But everybody has a choice. Everybody has,
Yeah. And it seems like there's a commitment, like if someone was to work with you, it's a commitment on their part too, that they would be open to, like, maybe there's some changes that we need to make as the pet parent, that
right.
it's not just how do we get the pet to do what we want the pet to do, but how do
Exactly.
pet and I, just like in marriage counseling or relationship counseling, it's just not the one person, it's both. So even though this is your
Exactly.
pet or whatever, you still have to have your commitment too.
And you have to realize that the animals are trying to communicate in
Hmm.
whatever way they can to get your attention, which may end up being something that's not necessarily the best behavior. But that's usually them trying to say, hello.
I got some issues.
Yeah, I need you to like pay attention here. So that's, for people to again expand and realize you could say it is like a couple. It's like it's not just about them or just about the
Hmm.
person. It's the connection between the two and what
Yeah.
is going.
Because
So,
regardless of the health of the connection, there's still a connection there.
mhm. And it just gets stronger the better.
Yeah.
And when you build that and you open that up, that just makes the bond even better. And
Hmm.
suddenly you're like really in tune with your animal, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing this differently, and it
Yeah.
expands everybody's view of how things are
Yeah.
what's really happening in the world.
And it always seems like the pet, no matter what it is, they always have like a favorite. You know what I mean? So they almost have like their person.
Mm-hmm.
So, like my dog, even though when I got my dog, I was definitely her person. And same with actually my cat. My kids were younger, but like I was always my cat's person as well. But even here, like I'm here with my sister, and my sister's got two dogs, and each dog has a person, and
Right,
you can
exactly.
tell who it is.
Oh
It's
yeah.
sometimes not. It's not a hidden who it is.
No, but they're there to help that person. They're there to support that person. They came in for a very specific job. So
Mm,
that's the other thing. You realize animals like us come in. I mean,
purpose.
those that are spiritually aware and open, we all are here for a specific purpose and
Mm.
agenda and what we're here to learn or what we're here to do. The same can be
And
said for your
heal.
animal. Get heal. Right. I mean, and then you have that choice to make those
Yeah.
changes and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, because we all have free will, so we can come in here with a purpose, and we may
Right.
never do that purpose,
Right.
but
So, and it's not always comfortable and it's
yeah.
not always easy, but then you work through it and you get the bigger benefits, right? So it's the same thing with the animals helping us, they're not just here as playmates. They're here as our guardians. They're here as our teachers. They're here. Most people, I would venture to say, will realize their animal has found them. They didn't find the animal. Animal finds them. So when you look at that and go, okay, and it's not always the animal you thought you wanted or thought is the best animal.
Oh my
gosh.
But
it's the right animal.
Well, right? It's funny because with my cat, I had a wicked allergy to cats. I mean, I could go into a house with a cat and have a full on like I cannot breathe episode. And I remember I went to go see an energy worker, and I was on her table and she said, there's a cat around you, and it's not that you're going to get a cat, but there's a cat that's going to find you. And I was like, cat? I'm like, I'm allergic to cats. What do you mean? And I kind of, I didn't really think about it. And then about a year later, this little kitten showed up. In fact, my son found him. He was under the deck meowing. And I mean, we literally adopted this cat. And I even went around the neighborhood and I was like, no one's missing a kitten. And because I wanted to make sure. And, he was our cat for 13 years. And I think about 6 months after this cat was now you have the cat and you can't right. You love the cat now. And so, yeah. And then a couple months later, I remembered that. I was thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, she was spot on. And that cat found me. And even my dog she was a rescue. And I'll never forget when I went to meet her. I mean, she just came running up to me and kind of jumped on my lap. And I'm
here, I found you.
It's you. That's how I felt too. But it's so true.
Yes. So when you start to look at things from that perspective and realize that there's more to this picture than meets the eye.
Yes. Right? There's a lot of divine intervention going on, so to say.
Yes, there is. And
maybe pre-planning before we incarnate into these bodies that has gone on, whether we realize it or not.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And, also when you had several animals, if an animal, when one has passed, very often that one will then help direct the next one to you.
I feel that very much. I definitely
right. So they're out there helping you to again find the right pet, or partner, or whatever you want to do. So, I mean, I work, a lot with horses as well. And in the horse dynamic, you're dealing a definite partnership because it's not a pet. It's a partner.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you're working together.
And I've heard that horses are, and way, way more than I do, but maybe we can talk about this, that horses have extreme emotional intelligence.
Their hearts are huge. Their heart energy. This is why people love horses so much, because you get in their energy field and it's like, you just feel so good. But again, they are responding to your energy and they're responding. I mean, one thing I've learned with horses is, I mean, they're way ahead of you. You're feeling like you're here, you're kind of thinking ahead, but they're already down like 5 steps ahead of you and know where you're going and know what's happening. So when they respond to something, you're like, haven't gotten there yet. It's like, but they're already there. They're feeling that. So they're so connected and intuitive. And I had to learn how to be really in the present, only think of now. If I start thinking too far ahead, then they're like, oh, okay, we're going to go up there. It's like, no, I'm not ready for that yet.
Wait, that's 5 steps down the road. We're still here.
We're still here. So you have to really be in the moment. And let's face it, for any of us on the spiritual path or any sort of these paths, it's about being in the moment, right?
Yes. Which is harder than you think. It is so hard to be in the present. I've been practicing this very, very recently because, we all kind of think, oh, I'm totally living in the present. And then this has been my focus the last week. And I literally am like, yeah, I am not living in the present moment as much as I like to think I am. So, of course, I had to make like a little diffuser essential oil blend for myself. And anyway, so it takes work to be in the present moment.
It does. And animals are a great way of reminding you that you have to stay in the moment and stay now and stay
I
here.
love that. Yes. If you're
Yeah,
having
and
trouble
so,
in the present, being in the present, get a pet.
right. But again, with the horses, again, so consider their work service animals in many ways as well. So, they have their own job and their own agenda and what they're trying to do, plus our stuff. So again, if we're not coming in clear, present, and focused, that distracts them from being able to do, because they're trying to process everything we're going through. They're trying to figure out, okay, well, what do you really mean? Do you really want that, or do you want that? And you have to really be clear, to help them. And again, they're big teachers. They really know how to keep it real, as it were. But I love working with horses because, they're just as much, they're just bigger, and it's a different purpose, but they're just as connected and involved. And anyone who has a horse and works with a horse, I mean, are just like, you are so connected. And you really, when you have that bond, it's unlike anything. It's really an amazing, and you feel that, and they feel you, and it's amazing. So and the energy work helps them. When I had my horse, I would do like this little self-care clearing on him every day before I would ride. And then it was just like he would visibly be, and they would ground him, and he would center, and he was just like, oh, okay, got rid of all that stuff, and I could be centered. And now, a couple times I forgot to do it, or just ran out of time. And then like he was much more spooky, and he was just, it was like he wasn't clear and present, himself.
So it was
And also, yeah, it was like, it took me a moment to figure out. I was like, why was, he a little bit more off today? It's like, oh, I didn't do my little energy clearing on him.
Oh, yeah.
And they really appreciate it and love it. They really, and all the animals do. They really love it, and they gravitated. I have a talk about a great story. I had when I was first starting to do this work, I had a cat. And so I was, and she did not like me to do sessions on her physically, because cats are very sensitive, but I could do it from like in the distance, across the room. But I was doing a session on a dog in like Hong Kong or something. And I was like and I asked her, and I said, can I use you as my surrogate, so I can do this session on you, but it's for this other dog. Bless her heart. She sat on the table. She let me do the session on her. As soon as I was finished, poof, off she went. And it was like, but she wouldn't let me do it on her that way, because
it's so funny. Oh my gosh.
But I know it was, and that to me was like, okay, they're a lot more aware and present than we give them credit for.
Oh my gosh. I mean, they're just so much more connected, I feel, to the earth even than we are, let alone all the stuff that's around us on top of it. It's so funny because I have she's like a little terrier breed, and like her going out and sniffing and doing all this stuff. I mean, you could just tell that she is in her joy, just doing all these little things. But then, then she likes to lay around. She's kind of a cat dog. But when she's in her mode where she can go, 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 and you just see how connected they are. And the slightest scent that goes by, and it's like,
yep, I got it.
Like
processing 1,000 things from that one smell.
Exactly. Where a roaring train could go by sometimes, and I'd be like oblivious. We get so caught up in our head.
They really are much more. Their senses are much more tuned. I know this is one of the balances I almost do on every animal is balancing their sensing chakra, because that balances all of their 5 senses and gets things, because they can be overloaded if it's too big and too open. Then they're just getting inundated with all this input,
kind of like what an empath would feel like.
Right, exactly. And so just
sometimes I get overloaded.
Exactly. So by adjusting that those chakras, their sensing chakras, which are on the side of their nose, actually,
Okay.
helps to process and for them to balance and regulate those senses. So it's not locked open, it's not locked closed. It's adjustable depending on their circumstances, and they're able to process information in
So,
a rate they can handle.
so do they have a different chakra system than we do?
They have the same chakra system, but they have a few extra ones.
Oh,
I don't normally do on people. So there's about 3 or 4 extra ones
okay.
that are added. So, but basically it's the same. So you can
Okay.
use the same chakras, which is that impacts them just as much as ours.
Okay.
For us as for them. So it's really important to keep those open and keep those clean.
So
And then
energetic,
grounding.
they're very similar to how
Oh yeah,
we are, which is even
yeah.
more interesting because you think they're so different from us. But again, I think it's just another proof in the universe that we really are connected. And I don't just mean people, but like us, the animals, the land, the water, like we so often lose sight of how connected we all are.
They are, and I got to experience that in an awesome way last fall. I did a trip with one of my mentors who teaches and has
Mhm.
helped support me in this. And we took a trip to the Red Sea and swam with dolphins for a week.
Oh, wow.
And being in that water and being with these, you know,
Hmm.
pod of dolphins, several times a day, and just feeling that connection. First of all, they're so much smarter than we are. The dolphins, the whales, elephants, all of these animals are a much higher intelligence than we are in many ways. But
Would
just
you say that it's a higher intelligence, or it's like they're just at a higher frequency than we are? Because I look at us and we feel, sometimes I look at humans and we are so dense, and we're all trying to, raise our frequency, raise our,
right. I
however
would
you
say,
want to look
yeah,
at it.
a little bit of both. I would say a little
Okay.
bit, because they they just have it together in such a way. But just I was so honored and felt the love and the connection and the support from them was and just healing and just
Mm,
um being close to that. You all of a sudden experiencing it in a different way than
yeah.
than what we normally experience. And they really have so much to offer us. But humanity tends to think animals are beneath us,
Mm,
overall, not everybody, but a lot, and we can use them as we please. And it's
yeah.
like,
And we're kind of sadly taught that as well.
right. And they aren't. I mean, there's so much more there. And if we give them and we connect with them on that level, if we're able to communicate and connect
Mhm.
and meet them where they are coming from, then it's a whole different experience. So that's part of what I'm trying to do with my work with people and their animals, is just helping to get you on the same wavelength,
Mhm.
communicating and connecting so that you're understanding each other and able to support each other in the best way possible, so that everybody's benefiting
Oh
from the
yeah,
whole
it
experience.
definitely seems like it. Yeah. And when you benefit like that, I always look at it, because we just said before how connected we are. It does ripple out. Even if you say, well, it's just the main person, say you've got 5, 6 people in a family, even if that one person is doing work, I can only imagine it ripples out to not just your family, but
Oh,
like your
definitely.
colleagues, your clients, everything else.
That falls under the principle of the work you do on yourself, and the more you shift
Mhm.
yourself, people in your direct environment have to change to adjust. So they have to change or they leave.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want to adjust to the new you, or the
Hmm.
way you are, that's when you very often people leave your life, because
Yes.
suddenly they're
And
not
that's when people fall off.
people fall off.
The
Exactly.
new people come in.
Exactly, because then you're
Yeah.
bringing in people with that higher frequency, that higher
Yeah.
energy. They're a better match for you. So, like attracts like. So
Mhm.
if your energy and frequency are higher, you're going to bring in those like people and animals. with
Yeah.
you.
It's so true. And the famous quote, I think is Mahatma Gandhi, she said, be the change. And I definitely fully embrace that. I don't think that we can ever expect the people around us to change unless we start to change first, because then their change will, as you just said, I love the way that you put it. They can either choose to stay with your change or they can leave it and go somewhere else. But I find most people adapt because when you're changing in a positive, more loving, more high frequency way, it kind of becomes infectious for other people. Like, oh, I want to be around that. I don't want to be around the negative person that's complaining all the time. Like, I want to be around the positive people who are moving and going places and doing cool things and, you know, making their lives better.
Yep. That's definitely, you said it all.
So,
But it's amazing. I mean, animals have so much to offer us, and they have so much to teach us. And to go back to your original thing is, yes, energetically, they're the same as us. They have the same aura, they have the same energy fields. You know, they're still physical beings, like we are physical beings. But it's the kind of that spiritual energy frequency aspect that's where it can be a little different, you know, or we can be a little more dense, humanity, sometimes.
and you always wondered, why did they call me dense? You know, not that anybody called that to me, but remember they'd be like, oh, you're so dense. And like, I never really understood what that meant until I got into the spiritual work. And then you're like, oh, that's what that means. It's so funny how these terms get thrown around somewhat out of context where you don't really understand what they mean. And then you go on this other path and you're like, oh, I see a lot of things that people use terms that they don't really know what it means.
Exactly. Oh, definitely. So it's an amazing phenomenon, to say the least. So
it is. And I absolutely love what you're doing. So how would a session look like with you? You were talking about your core
okay, so my sessions,
what does that look like?
Okay, I do them all online.
Okay.
So it's pretty much all on Zoom.
Do you ever go on purpose or in person?
Not with animals, no, because it's a distraction. Primarily for animals. Animal can be home. They can be where they need to be. There's no stress. There's no anxiety. I'm connecting with them energetically, so there's no distance.
There's no barrier.
You know, the animals next to me or 3,000 miles away. You know, it doesn't really matter. And people are amazed at how they can tell their animals responding and like sensing that it's like I'm there. So they definitely are picking up on it.
Okay.
But it just is easier. Also, after the session, it gives the person and the animal a chance to just kind of rest and recoup and not have to be driving.
Yeah.
Animals also, most of the animals I work with will either sleep or relax during the session. But if they are at home or in their own environment, it gives them the opportunity to get up and move around. If they're clearing stuff and need to move, sometimes, you know, when an animal shakes, very often them clearing stuff off their body. So that gives them the opportunity to get up and move, to drink some water, to clear off, and to shift the energy in them so that they can kind of resettle.
And in their familiar environment.
And then they're in their familiar environment where they're safe, they're happy, and there's no stress. Yeah. So that's the first thing. So all my animals I do, and mostly all my people at this point too.
It's just easier.
It is. And it works better because then there's no stress. You know, there's no having to get there on time and driving.
Or there's traffic and I'm running late and all that stuff is eliminated from the equation.
Yes, exactly. So it makes it much happier for everybody. Then the session's about 50 minutes. And I use muscle testing. That's how I
love muscle testing.
Muscle testing when I, you know, what I need to go to. I have a form, a chart that I work through and ask the questions. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? You know, and I connect and then I tap. So I do that over the head, the heart, and the gut. So the three brains. There's the
sort of like the EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique.
Yes, kind of like that. But it's just I'm not on necessarily. Sometimes I have a specific hand movement position, but mostly it's just and I just have them tap over their heart, but I'm doing the tap, and I tell them what I'm going through as I tap it out. And so that usually I go until it's like my body, my muscle testing is saying that's it for today, because again, I'm and like with the animals, I generally go in and communicate with them first. I'll tune in and find out, say, hi, I'm doing this. Is this okay? And I get a range of responses. It's funny. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's taken you long enough to get here. I've been waiting. I've been waiting. Other times it's like, who are you? And what do you want? It's like, I'm here because your mom wants me to help. Well, are you sure? So it just varies. But
I know they can't go like, here's Carolyn's number. Give her a call. Can you imagine?
Exactly.
Please call her. Dear Lord, please call her.
Yeah. So then I kind of just do an overview and just, look to see kind of what is going on after, what the person has told me or what they're addressing. And then we just see what comes up, and it just follows along as to what comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Sessions, like if you're doing a package of 4, usually it's about depending on the severity of the situation or what's going on. Usually I would say about every 2 to 3 weeks the sessions are. If it's really chronic or if there's something really serious going on, I might do it every week.
Okay.
So it just depends. And again, I muscle test and check to see, but it's also, I let the pet parent say, okay, they can usually see the session's working, it's all working, and then it kind of runs out of gas.
Yeah.
So it's like so if you reach that point, then it's time for the next session, because you want to keep the progress going smoothly.
Yeah, and you want to make what you did sustainable. Like we were talking earlier, you don't want it to be too much or overload, because then you can't process that.
Right. And so it usually initially takes 3, 4, 5 sessions to really feel the impact and to really notice a significant change of sorts. Then it's just maintenance, or again, it just depends on what the purpose is and the goal. If you're dealing with chronic issues, that's a more of a serious issue. If you're doing with just kind of general clearing and balancing, working with the person, they have to then shift and process what's going on too, and figure out, okay, how do I deal with all this?
Yeah.
So all those things come into play, and it all works. Like I said, there's not anything. I don't force people to do anything. Some people need a little longer. Some people need like 3 or 4 weeks. It was a big change for them, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I need some time to. If they're not used to this kind of work and they're not used to that kind of change, that's a big shift for them in their life. They have to process that, and it takes a little longer sometimes.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the scenario and how that goes.
And I agree. It's like you said it earlier, where when you're doing this kind of work, sometimes it seems like subtle, or you're like, is anything happening? And it does sometimes seem subtle. And then all of a sudden you'll have this realization that some awareness comes up that you never thought of. And that the only way that awareness could ever have come up was because of the work that you're doing. So sometimes I think people were so used to this quick fix thing.
Exactly. Yes. And it's not that way. It's not like
a lasting fix.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm also very much, and I try to tell my animal people, better to do this before you get a big problem. Don't wait until it's a chronic problem or there's a big issue, because animals hide their disabilities. They hide their illnesses. I can't tell you how many times, everyone's fine. And then suddenly their dog has stage 4 cancer, but they don't show it. They don't, or things like, or whatever disease or something's coming up, because they are, that instinctive side of them is to protect. They can't be weak. They can't show weakness.
Okay.
So they cover that up and they come out like, I'm fine, even though they may or may not be. So,
are there ways that we could pick up on that?
Well, again, certain like behaviors, certain, if their patterns change, if they're not drinking as much water, if they start licking, I mean, anything that's out of the normal behavior. And check. That's where you want to go to the vet and just double check. Better to go in and pay, $150 for a routine exam and know that it's okay, or they can start to take care of something. They can make an adjustment.
Yeah. It's just like in people, the stuck emotions lead to dis-ease in the body.
Exactly. And that's
when not handled or when not fully processed and discharged.
So, I'm all about that preventative, being proactive and being preventative. So even if there is not something wrong, there's always something that can be cleared and worked on and made better. It's like with us too, right? We're always doing I don't have a problem, but I'm still doing the work on myself so that I don't ever have that problem.
Exactly. Right? And we all came here with stuff. I mean, if we didn't have stuff, like why would we need to be here?
Exactly. So it's all how that works. And then, so that's pretty much how I work. And then I just wanted to mention that I'm starting a new monthly group event online. So again, it's online for pets and their people. And I'm working on a specific theme each month. So this month I'm doing stress, anxiety, and anxiousness. Next month is old age and end of life issues and things like that.
And that's something people could jump in at any time.
Yeah, you can, it's on my website. You can come in,
but we'll have everything in the description. So don't.
Yeah. And the point of it is it's based on the quantum physics aspect of observation. So even though there's a group of people, if they all have issues with their animals that are like related to anxiety or anxiousness or stress or overwhelm, and they may be as well, I pick one animal person pair that will be the representative for the group. And then I will do a session on them, which will, again, by the people there observing and watching and contribute. It's like they're contributing to the healing as well.
Yes. And getting healed as well.
So it's this whole new kind of way of approaching.
I love that. I often find that group work can be extremely beneficial. And I think individual work can as well. Right. But I really feel that there is a place for both. Because sometimes with the individual stuff, you're like, well, we don't feel like sharing everything.
Right. And that's why
there's so much, like, you get perspective. You get so much more perspective on whatever you're struggling with.
And you also realize you're not alone.
Yes.
There are other people there are going through similar issues or similar experiences. And there's a comfort of knowing, okay, we're all going through this, and you all understand, and you can all relate, and you can support each other in a way that you don't get necessarily when you're just by yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So
I like the group approach.
Yeah.
And so it's on Zoom, right? It's on.
Yes, it'll be on Zoom.
Okay. Yes. That's what I figured.
And at the moment, it's an hour and a half long. So just have enough time to kind of get to know, introduce people, do like a little not prayer circle, but contain the energy,
Yeah, kind of like a little opening prayer kind of thing, or
opening thing,
setting the intention.
Right. And then I will pick the designated pair, and then I will do the session. Then we'll have question and answer at the end, so that people, if want to ask about what came up or what's happening.
Yeah.
That, and then we'll close the circle at the end and be done.
And are you teaching people how to do this at home with their own pet? Is that part of it?
Not yet. But
yeah, I know that's a whole different dynamic. Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole other, I'm just trying to get the group going now.
Let me get in the group first, Michelle. Cool your jets.
That's a good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, because then people can continue on at home, because what you said, it was once a month, right?
Yeah, but again, and then also that's where they can then come for a single session if they want a little bit more focused energy, or deeper, to get a little more detail. But you can always, as you're saying, you always pick up something from that group dynamic.
Oh,
You'll take what you
absolutely.
need. And it may not even be something that you're aware you need, so that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah. I always
it's
find that when you go to like a workshop or something with a group of people and they're like, oh, let's have a volunteer, and then you don't get picked, and then you're like, oh dang. But I've learned to not worry about getting picked or not picked, because I know that the people who are coming up, that there's a message still in it for me. But I used to kind of always be like, dang it, I never get picked for this stuff. But I had to like reframe my way of thinking about it, so that,
exactly,
oh, well, it doesn't
exactly.
matter if I don't get picked, because whoever gets picked, I know whatever that is going on with them can benefit me as well.
Right. And that's the whole premise of this whole
Yes.
thing. So
Yeah,
everybody benefits. Everybody's getting
exactly.
the
And
same
that's
thing
why I
out of
love, and that's why I never worry about that stuff.
it. It's not like you're just going to
Everyone's
a
getting,
class and, there's something up there, you're not separate. You're all involved. You're all connected and you're
yes.
all
Yeah. And you
related.
set that intention from the beginning that you're all connected
Exactly.
and you're here
Yep.
for this purpose. So now everybody's on the same page. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
I absolutely love that. I think that's fantastic.
So yeah, so I'm excited about it, and just it's going to be great. It's just getting people to go, oh, this can work. It's like, yes, it can work.
Yes. Well, if there
So,
was one thing for the people out there that maybe are struggling with their pet,
mhm,
whatever kind of relationship that they're in,
mhm.
what's one little bit of advice that they can walk away with after our talk?
Become more observant
Mm,
what what they're trying to tell you and what's going on with them. Get out of yourself and put yourself in their shoes and become a little bit more attentive to, what they might be experiencing,
yeah.
and support them. Because we get in our own stuff and we think of them as an annoyance half the time. But if we can realize, well, maybe they're doing that for a specific reason, or maybe there's something else going on, and that's what we need to find out what's going on.
Yeah. It's kind of the same with people.
Yep.
See, they're
Have
really
some
not much different
compassion,
than we are.
have some compassion, some love, and patience.
I
You know.
love that. Well, how can people connect with you?
Okay, they can go to my website, which is Chiron, CHIRON, energymedicine.com. I have all my information there. They can, of course, sign up for a free consultation. So I can talk to anybody who has any questions, and we can learn more about each other. I have the information about the group class there.
Mhm.
So that's on there, and also about my mirror sessions, that's there, and just any other, there's all that information there, and testimonials and all sorts of stuff for them to find out.
Ah,
They can
fantastic.
also call me at 818-776-8432.
Okay.
And there's the email, which is discover@chironenergymedicine.com. That's discover@chironenergymedicine.com.
Oh, I
So
love it.
they can reach me all those different ways.
Yeah.
And
And if you missed that and you're driving listening to this, don't worry. It'll all be in the description. So no worries. I'll make sure that your information. So is there
right.
anything that we missed?
Animals are amazing. People can be amazing too if they get
Yeah.
out of their heads. But I am so grateful to the animals, and I'm becoming more and more grateful
Mm,
for, what they have to offer and what I'm learning from them,
yeah.
and how I can give that back to other animals and
Yeah.
support them.
I've always felt that my pets, I've only had two pets, but I've felt that my pets have brought a different sense of balance into my life. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very grateful for the ones that are here and the ones that are gone.
And they're very healing, and
Oh,
they ground us, and we live longer, and we're saner if we
mhm,
have, some animal in our life at some point. Now we can't always have them, but if you're open to that experience,
mhm.
there's nothing but benefits really. So
Gosh, yes, I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh, Carolyn, I'll have to have you back. Maybe you could do a whole episode on one of the. I love that how you're doing it on the specific topics. I really
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So maybe we can have you back and
Sure, definitely.
do some fun
Definitely.
stuff. But I so appreciate your time for coming, and oh my gosh, just such a wealth of information that you shared with us and our pets. Because I know we are all, those of us who have pets, and especially if you know me, I go a little crazy with my dog. Like she's
Yes.
the dog in the store that has the sweater and the little, the little leash, and she's sitting in the cart. Or yes, I'm one of those that has a stroller for her. So, so yeah.
Guilty as charged.
It's all good. She is a pampered little pooch, I will tell you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, that's the only way it should be, right?
Exactly. Well, thank you again so much for your time. And until next time, this is Michelle with The Wealth Within Us.